Hi, I'm Jen Ramsey, and my um, policy paper was about school aid or Proctor. Um, the program is or the policy is designed to help establish a more fair um, opportunity for students and for teachers. Um, Within our school, we have several students who meet the qualifications for proctoring or being a student aide because they have basically achieved or acquired more credits than are required to graduate. We look for opportunities for them to um, be in the classroom in an academic setting, but maybe not with like a regular curriculum. The policy will establish um, expectations and guidelines for students who are taking the proctoring hour. Um, the purpose, it's designed to sort of establish um, administrative and clerical skills that students may not have obtained through traditional schooling, because we kind of all know that um, paperwork sort of a responsibility of all jobs. This is a kind of a hands-on skill that they could acquire. They learn lots of new responsibilities. The teacher can utilize them as much or as little really as they want in the classroom, and it gives them an opportunity to sort of experience and discover who they are and what their abilities are, outside of something that only they're vested in. Like they're great, but this is something that would impact an entire class. Teachers, we know that teachers' time is very limited, and we're asked to do more and more things every year. So, student aides or proctors can offer sort of an alleviation to that. Um, they would be able to do tasks that may be time consuming, but don't require the teacher's specific knowledge or specific expertise. The idea is also, to promote management, time management, and a lot of these things go hand in hand with career and college readiness. Students will have an academic guideline for their credit now. Before it was, kind of whatever the teacher wanted to give them as a grade, whether it was a points for showing up that day or if they have a specific task. But having a clear cut policy will allow them to know in advance what they're going to be graded on. Um, Making sure that the students are using the time wisely and appropriately, and not looking for an opportunity to skip class without consequences or skip school without consequences. Um, and making sure that they're not using it as a study hall, or that they're just being using it inappropriately for that 90 minutes. This also allows the teachers to complete their responsibilities, if filing, typing, basic clerical or administrative tasks that are required of the teacher, but again, doesn't always have time to complete within the guidelines of the day. Code of ethics. This is just, you can read, the teacher accepts personal responsibility for teaching students character qualities that will help them evaluate the consequences and accept the responsibility for their actions and choices. So it's kind of helping the students. Our code of ethics is to help the students develop and recognize their own code of ethics. Fairness, one of the complaints has always been that some teachers have multiple proctor student teachers, or excuse me, student aides and proctors, while other teachers don't have any. You're sort of encouraged to recruit your student aides, um, but if you only teach freshman and sophomore, they wouldn't meet the qualifications. So it's difficult to do that. I would argue, or I would establish the rule or the expectation and guideline that or teachers can only have two proctors per semester, one per day, since we are on a block schedule, They can have a proctor during any hour that they have class. They shouldn't be allowed to have a proctor during their planned period because oftentimes we're out of our classroom, we have duty, we may be called to do other things that take us out of our classroom, and those students should never be left alone in our classroom. So it would just make sense not to allow them to proctor during that hour. And also so that all the teachers and all the staff have sort of equal or equity in grading. So making sure that the students know what their expectations are and what they can expect out of it. Um, Under FERPA, students have some restrictions placed on them in terms of what they can and can't do. They're not allowed to um, really read or have access to a teacher's um, formal or professional records. Um, Anytime a teacher records information that is designed to be kept, for either later date or for reference at a later time, that information is not something that the students would have access to. So there's been questions about grade books and things like that. As long as the students are just recording for data entry or grading, I mean, for that matter, they do have the ability to grade, peer grade. It would be discouraged to have them peer grade anything that would be um, too open to interpretation, too subjective, because the student probably won't be able to grade equally to the teacher. However, multiple choice things, activities, things where you have a clear cut answer key and there's really no interpretation of a correct or incorrect answer, that would be appropriate for students to grade and to collect the grades and to basically enter them into a spreadsheet for data entry. Now, once that information is applied to the grade book, or in our case, the Synergy program, then that information would become off limits to the students. Um, the cases, the trends, two cases. One was a Supreme Court case, Owasso Independent School District versus Valvo, would go in to establish the precedent. The courts basically said that, again, that students can peer grade the information as long as the information is not something that is collected in a record that the teacher plans on keeping or filing away for future reference. Settle versus Dickinson County basically establishes that teachers do have the ability to grade as they see fit in terms of fair grading. One of the concerns has always been, if you have a certain teacher who doesn't have a lot of expectations for a student and they get an A or 100% in their proctoring class, and you have another teacher who has very high expectations, and perhaps they already have a set of activities and things like that the student is expected to do, and if they don't fulfill those responsibilities, then they could get a lower score. So it's not fair to the students nor to the teachers to not have some sort of guidelines in place. Then, of course, FERPA, Family Education Right and Privacy Act, really kind of established first in 1974 the parameters of what information should be kept private for a student and what information is not deemed part of that record. Um, Teachers will have a student aid proctor to help alleviate administrative and clerical workload. This will ultimately, any student has the ability to do this. There really is no restrictions. Obviously there would be no racial or ethnic restrictions, and really students with disabilities as well. You would have to make a judgment call on what, how much, what your expectations were for that student. But they certainly shouldn't be denied the opportunity to become a proctor. And all students would learn administrative and clerical skills. And so it really goes back to trying to take the proctor hour, which has been kind of an empty calorie hour, and do give it some credence, some value, and allow the students to have the opportunity to learn